All right, welcome back to another episode of Cameo with Nevin Webster. Long hiatus, well-needed hiatus. Got away, had a little vacation, first time in years. I'm sitting outside where I actually like recording podcasts because I have a little podcast kit that goes in a backpack. I'm sitting in front of a very green building across from the Federal Party of Canada Green Candidate, Iain Currie. Hello, Iain.
Good morning, Nevin. How are you?
I'm well. Did
Excellent.
I mess anything up in my random rambling intro?
No, I don't think so.
Because you are federal.
I am federal.
You're federal, because we got the election coming up sometime in October.
October 21 is the date, yeah.
Okay, I hear the word writ being said a lot, and
Yep.
as a ex-Crown prosecutor, now private practicing lawyer, what is a writ, first of all, because I don't understand.
Well, so I'm not sure what a writ actually looks like. I assume it's a piece of paper signed by the Governor General, but basically it's the document that starts the election process. So dropping the writ is the Prime Minister announcing, the government announcing that the election is on.
So that's like the starting gun of a race.
Absolutely, yeah.
So whatever's happening right now, like everyone's cycling through Kamloops right now, is not actually the election going on. That's the pre-election.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess technically, but the technicalities probably don't make much of a difference. There are some regulations about how much you can spend, for example, on advertising before the writ and after the writ.
Yes.
So it makes a bit of difference for my campaign manager, Jordan. So he's keeping track of these things, making sure that we comply with the rules, but the rules aren't hard, and everyone's starting the race is on.
Yeah, shout out to Jordan and Jesse Ritchie for tracking me down to make this happen. I'm hard to sometimes track down at times, and then very easy at other times. But can you talk to me about, like, what does the color green mean to you before you even joined politics? Like, colors are very, like, visceral to me.
Right?
What does green mean to you?
I don't know. Green's always been one of my favorite colors. It's a color of nature, right? That's what jumps out at me. It's the color of trees and grass. We here in Kamloops, right? We are excited when the hills are green. Like that's a good thing for almost everyone.
Oh, for sure.
Growing up in Kamloops, I was used to seeing the brown hills, and then we'd get a rainstorm, and things would green up a bit, and it just. It's a...
Earth comes alive.
Exactly. There you go. Life, nature.
And when did you get involved in politics? When did that happen?
Oh, about 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago?
Not very long ago. So, I was involved about 10 years ago. I got involved in environmental issues, but not politically. Mm-hmm. That was in terms of education, going around and talking to people about climate change,
mm-hmm.
as we used to call it. Now we call it climate crisis, but
did we change the verbiage now?
Well, you know what? I think we have changed the verbiage. We have changed the way it's talked about, just because climate change doesn't communicate the urgency. And 10 years ago, there was some urgency in terms of waking people up, teaching people about the problem, because there was some urgency around convincing people that this was a real thing. We're now at the stage where everyone is going to be convinced this is a real thing. Yeah. But there needs to be a real push to acknowledge the urgency so that we actually do something about it. Knowing about it's one thing, doing is a very different thing.
And you're doing that with some sunflower seeds, I believe you're handing out here.
We are handing out sunflower seeds. That's more to communicate that's the political message, right?
Oh,
that's
for sure.
the getting my name in front of a wider audience, because I'm not well known. The Green Party is becoming more and more well known, but the political process means I got to put my face on signs and sunflower seed packets and get us out there.
Yeah, it's interesting me charting like my political allegiances, let's call it, from like 5th grade, being like, yeah, I would vote Green Party, to now being like, yeah, I'm learning about them. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting watching. I would consider it myself the next generation, the official next generation, kind of hopefully take lead, and seeing the changes of my allegiances, but also seeing the inverse, and it's very, very troubling to me. What changes do you think you've seen culturally in the last 10 years that you're trying to tackle with your platform as a local candidate?
Well, so the big one that I've that I've noticed is the polarization. Everyone taking more extreme positions on every side of an issue. I had not been, until I started this political process, starting being involved, thinking of myself as a potential candidate and then a candidate for office. I was not active on social media. I wasn't paying attention to. I was looking down at the States. Everyone has to follow that news. It's hard to avoid, and seeing the polarization there. And then when I focused on sort of social media, and more recently, I see the polarization here. But I think it's probably the same in the States. If you actually are talking to people, if you actually are sitting down like you and I right now, I don't see polarization in reality.
It's very funny, and I play with it.
Yeah.
And I consider myself a professional troll.
Okay.
Because I have the capability to talk shit online, but also I will walk up to you and, you either hit me or you don't.
Yeah.
Right? Or we sit down and we record. You know what I mean? Like, talk shit, get hit, get back up again. And a lot of people, I don't think, subscribe to that methodology anymore. And they're comfortable in their polarization. And then they find their echo chambers, right, that exacerbates that problem.
Yeah, I think so. And you and I from a different generation.
Yes.
If you were at I remember from the school ground, right, where when you had real polarization, when you have a real disagreement or argument, it might end up in some punches being thrown, and it might end up in shoving match, what have you. But there were some real
there's real animosity felt.
Absolutely, real animosity felt. So for me, going on social media and being trolled, or feeling like I was trolled, feeling like I'm being attacked personally, it gets me right back to that school ground place.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
I know it's
very primal.
Yeah, totally primal. And that's, like someone in my generation, I'm not used to that. I've tried to, as an adult, cultivate, and a lawyer, right? I'm a lawyer too.
Yeah.
So I've tried to cultivate the ability to, to step away from that place, to never be in that schoolyard place.
Yeah.
And now being in politics, okay, everyone,
you got to play in it. You got to learn to have nothing, feel nothing, but feel everything at the same time. So you have to live in the polarization too, right? And it's very, very hard for some people to not get in their feels, right? And there's this whole Generation Z, who is taken satire to the nth level of making people go in their feels, of how much they don't care about making you feel something and how much they do care. And it's very, very troubling. We don't need to go into that level of stuff because this is stuff politicians will be worried about in about 12 years.
Okay. Well, there you go.
But let's talk about stuff that actually matters to Kamloops. What 3 topics are you finding your potential constituents keep on talking to you about continually, and they want you to be the front runner of for Kamloops?
So jobs. That's a big
always
one.
Jobs.
Yeah, no, it is always jobs, and I think that's because I think that hits the feels, right?
Yeah.
To borrow your expression, that hits people's fear, and fear is the what's the quote from Dune? Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the most primal emotion. It's the one we most feel easily.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. There you go. And so when you say jobs, people think. People go to the worst case scenario. I think most of us will remember a time where we were between jobs or looking for jobs or desperately wanting a job and not being able to get it. Those sorts of things.
Why does jobs in this market mean resource-based jobs?
Yeah, no.
Why is there's this words that are not being said when you say jobs? Those jobs must be resource-based. Forestry, oil and gas. That troubles me as someone who's young and sees all these other avenues of revenue.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's what the Green Party is about, and that's our message, is transitioning jobs that are currently resource-based into a green resource-based jobs, which we can talk about. But I think your question is getting at the disconnect between the new economy is and will continue to create excellent opportunities and that are all. I mean, they're all resource based at some basic level. But being a podcaster,
yes.
working in tech, working in service industries, being a lawyer, hell, like these are all jobs that will evolve and continue to grow and become more important, and also allow us to be creative to some extent. I'll take lawyer out of that, but
I don't know. I think we're at the point where the laws, like in digital IP, need to be written 10 times over. So because there's a lot of creative ways I can interpret the laws too. So.
Absolutely. And I'm sort of kidding about law not being creative.
It's a very creative field, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The most creative.
Well, right, and most of my time as a lawyer has been as a Crown prosecutor, and that's. To some extent, that was a creative outlet for me.
So let's talk about that, because that's kind of cool. Because like, your job is talk the toughest shit possible, and get what justice needs to be done.
Right.
So it's very interesting because I'm watching, like, you got Terry and Kathy from the healthcare industry, and then you had like Bill Sundu, yourself, and now this new NDP guy, lawyers, on NDP and Green. So I'm like, am I just making up trends in my head or patterns, or is there a reason why lawyers are drawn, or at least it appears to be they're very socially conscious and pulled this direction? I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling, but
no, so I hadn't actually thought about that, but I do think, I think there's some element, and I know Bill Sundu's career was a lot of public service. And a lot of legal aid work. I started out doing that kind of work, doing criminal defense, doing some family law, working for people on legal aid, which is like a public service. And then being a Crown prosecutor, being in the public service sort of officially, I guess.
Yeah.
And you see some of the issues with government and bureaucracy, and you also see, as a Crown prosecutor, one of the hardest parts is seeing people, dealing with people on a daily basis in
crisis.
Not just crisis, but like the worst crisis imaginable, like a parent who's lost their child.
Very boots on the ground career upbringing, in my opinion, right? If you're in the courts, but also you're seeing the law, right? You're kind of seeing both worlds, which I have trouble finding people who have boots on the ground mentalities, right? You know what I mean? Like, people look at me. I'm quite ageist, is the best way to put it, and they don't think I have experience because of my age, right? But it's like, well, no, you just don't value the short experience that I had and how that impacts me and how that brings me knowledge to then tackle the next problem, right? Where, you can't get boot on the ground experience being at the top of a drug firm, right?
Yeah.
Like, I lace up. I bought work boots because I want a physical reminder that I want to, put my boots on like any other worker, even though I work for myself, and that's not necessary, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I consider this work that you're doing right now, like getting out and talking to people, to be essential experience. So you've got an experience that...
And that bridge, man, fuck. That was... my anxiety was through the roof. I do not cross that bridge for shit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can be as candid as you want.
Yeah,
but I'm actually really enjoying our talk, and I appreciate how, like, low-key you are.
Oh,
that is something that I really look for in people. Right? And it was very interesting for me doing the city council candidate ones, because I tried to hit them all as best I could, and I got like damn close.
Right.
And it was very interesting just to see who I could level with, and I feel like I'm someone who I can level with just about anyone.
Yeah.
And who I couldn't.
Right.
And it's like, it's pretty telling.
Well, that's why I'm pleased that I'm dressed comfortably this morning. They're telling me that when I'm supposed to go out knocking doors, I'm wearing shirts and pants and looking like a politician. And this morning, I'm pleased to be in just sort of grubby clothes and
But you got the Tesla flex. You got the
yeah,
Tesla
I've got
sweater
the-
flex, man.
yeah.
Like you're still like, hey, hey, you know that Tesla X, you know.
Yeah. So no, mine's a Model 3, so I don't have the,
Oh,
I don't have the
okay.
X.
Oh yeah, you at least have one.
So there you go.
See, my realtor has the X, so I might just sneak a few
Okay.
pictures and flex on people.
Yeah, there you go. So, no, so this is great. Like, and we're outside. It's a gorgeous morning. I don't know how your sound is going to be affected by the train passing, but
It works out pretty well, actually, right? Like, so you just look at the black bars and they stay at like 75-80% there.
Oh, okay.
And we're pretty good. And then everything else is just kind of like, yeah, this is what you would hear if you were here anyways. So
yes. Yeah.
I like the ambiance of it all.
Yeah.
Coming from I got into podcasting before it had like a really big boom. I saw the boom coming, so I started and hustled hard as fast as I could so I could catch that wave. And seeing everyone care so much about being perfect,
Right.
I just went the complete opposite. I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend money I don't have to buy equipment I can't afford, but at least I'll be able to do it good enough that they can't actually complain about it not being perfect. But if I need to make it perfect, the equipment's good enough I can do it.
You
But
can.
so far, there's been really only like one person who really complained, and that was like in the first 5 episodes. So.
Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. No, this is pretty Kamloops, right? This is it.
I like your location too. That it's like slightly like it actually is on Victoria, but it's off Victoria. I feel like there's a lot of metaphor to be said in that because Kamloops highly values the downtown in a way that other parts of Kamloops don't feel loved at times.
Right. Yeah.
You know, how do you think you can kind of tackle that, or is that even a place that you can tackle? Because is that more just city council at that point? Like, where do you fit into politics? Because I guess a lot of people don't even understand how politics work, right? Because you're going federal,
Yeah.
right? But they're like, no, you're the Kamloops guy, right? So
Right.
where let's teach people, where do you fit in the Canadian political spectrum if you become our MP?
Well, so you mean in terms of spectrum? You don't mean left-right spectrum. You mean in
like-
terms of jurisdiction and
Yeah, jurisdiction, right? So you'll
Yeah.
be flying to Ottawa, representing us there. You can't, you're not this person to call if someone's mad that the garbage isn't taken out.
No, so the municipality has jurisdiction over things like garbage and city streets.
Yep.
The province has jurisdiction over like waste management and environmental issues that are in the province. The plastic bag ban, there's
Okay.
a good one. So I think it was the city of Victoria had a plastic bag ban, and the courts decided no, you can't do that without permission from the provincial Ministry of Environment.
Oh, really?
So so it's just one of many places where there's sort of an overlap. The city wants to do something local. Does it have the jurisdiction to do it? Depends on the complicated laws and how the courts interpret it. But there's also a federal Minister of Environment who looks after matters within federal jurisdictions, like oceans. Fish in the oceans are a federal jurisdiction. Fish that spawn generally are salmon are partly a federal jurisdiction, partly a provincial jurisdiction. And if they're running through a creek, there's no salmon in Peterson Creek, but like Peterson Creek would be partly provincial, partly municipal. It's very complicated, and
I keep on just thinking of like 4th grade social studies and just like being like, okay, what did my worksheet say? And I'm just like working through the bullet points. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are just confused sometimes of what powers and who has the power and what their purpose is. And I'm hoping this upcoming election that people get some sort of clarity of exactly what they're voting for and who they're voting for, because I feel like there's so many non-issues that had just are in the public eye, just making it very confusing.
yeah. So the way I like to think of it, so the federal government is obviously larger in scope. It's Canada-wide. So some of the issues that I would deal with if I was your MP would be about national and international, big picture issues. But like what most people seem to care about. Frankly, when I knock on doors and talk to people, lots of them want to talk about things that are probably municipal issues, like garbage collection, like the roads in the city. And that's not. And I don't say to anyone, like, I don't want to hear about this, or this isn't what I want to talk about, because a federal MP should understand the
struggles of the everyman.
Yeah, absolutely, and also should understand, like, the province is the one who sets the rules for a municipality. So what the city has jurisdiction over is decided by the province, but lots of the funding for what municipalities can do needs to come from the federal government. So the cooperation between different levels of government is something the Green Party is really pushing, because what I'm seeing, more and more doors I knock on, people talking about health care, mostly a provincial jurisdiction, but right, the federal government has most of the tax dollars that end up going into health, or a big influence on that.
They're the one. They're the money daddy. But they're not the ones who actually are the nurse. The province, the nurse. The government's got the money. Here, go spend what you need and get out of my hair.
Sort of. It's a little more complicated than that, and the province certainly has a big piece of the funding puzzle. But things like Green Party's talking about a universal pharmacare program, and that's been one of our platforms for a long time. That is a provincial jurisdiction that would need to be federally funded and led and supported.
So provincial pharmacare would be like, I am lucky enough to have insurance when I need to go to Shoppers, so I get everything discounted. That would be across the board, every citizen of Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. So that as a country, we would negotiate with the drug companies.
Close to countries at
this point.
That's
great, in terms of size. And,
shout out Patriot Act Fentanyl Edition. Y'all should watch that with Hassan Minaj. Highly recommended. Also, shout out Netflix for going to the States when they should have stayed in Canada. Anyways.
All right. So, your shout-out, so just by flow, is just
off
now.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. You don't have no idea how my brain works. And when people actually let my brain do what it does, it's actually quite interesting. But anyways, you can keep me on track then.
No, it's fine. I'm going to try to get myself back on track. I'm not going to try to keep you. So so National Pharmacare would essentially be, we as a country get the best possible deal on drugs, and then they're just like going to the doctor. You don't pay the bill.
Yeah.
Going to the pharmacy, you get your required, life-saving or health-enhancing pharmaceuticals. You get those essentially as part of your medical plan. Government's paid for. Universal.
That seems like why isn't this already done? Sort of.
Exactly. So Canada is the only country with Medicare, universal Medicare, that doesn't have universal pharmacare. So it's not a new thing. It works across the globe.
Interesting. Yeah. I always wonder because you always hear about kickbacks with drug companies. Because whenever I get handed like a new drug to try, and they give me a little pamphlet, and I take it to the Shoppers, right? Like, who's getting paid? Because I know it's not my doctor, because I've already asked.
Yeah.
Like who's getting paid to trial these drugs on me? And when I start thinking of like my pills and drugs and stuff as like Netflix subscriptions, right? It's like, people want to look at me because I spend $10 a month on a Netflix subscription, but like, you want to see my drug bill, and that's like handed to me by a doctor? Like, what's going on? And I'm lucky to have insurance. Like I know my privilege in regards. So after pharmacare, which that makes a lot of sense. What's your next big issue that we should talk about? Since we have limited time, we should actually talk about you.
Yeah, well, for sure. So. First week of school, so let's talk about abolishing tuition for higher education. Let's talk about forgiving student loans. Let's talk about so some of these things which are very possible to do, which are all costed out in the Green Party platform, that are becoming mainstream ideas in the U.S., which we need to. We need to stop moving in the direction the U.S. is in now, and we need to start moving in the direction of, the Green Party says, let's abolish tuition. Doable. We think of education as a right, not a privilege, not something that you should go in debt and sacrifice your economic viability because you are getting a higher education. Your education benefits me, benefits my children.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a better educated society is how Canada can compete on the world stage.
But just for people who know, if you just send them a little bit of money every once in a while, they stop calling you.
Yeah, so this game, this game of student loans and dealing with so
textbooks,
much
just the rise of textbooks
Absolutely.
alone. Like you can't just decide that there's a new edition of a textbook and you must have it and it's $300, right? Like, first of all, my government subsidized the trees that you used to make the paper, and now you're charging me back to it at like 3,000% interest like what? Like, no, I hate textbooks. Like, see, I'm one of those kids who went to university who didn't need to. Right? I had the capacity to teach myself anything if you give me an internet connection and lock me in a room.
Yep.
Right? But that's not the system my parents are accustomed to, so I had to go to university. I'm lucky I got to split it up, so I did like adventure guiding and then into TRU, because shout out TRU because they have that adventure program.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Education's an interesting one for sure.
Yep.
But then you're always going to have people like me who be like, kind of salty, be like, oh, I burdened and I paid all this sort of stuff. How do you explain to someone that, like, just because that wasn't your experience or you had to go through that doesn't mean the next generation has to experience the same crap you did?
I mean, that's a tough one, but that's a visceral reaction, and that's also a conversation I have every day at home because my wife is a doctor and she trained in the U.S.
Okay.
And
ouch.
she trained in the 80s and 90s, and so when and she also has, she did a couple of fellowships. She's a specialist. She did 12 years of school or more. In order to get the qualifications she has. And it drives her crazy that the next generation going up is, sort of more laissez-faire, and doctors, they actually don't make them stay up for 24 hours and, do all the grunt work and do all this basically hazing rituals.
Yeah.
Is the way she describes it. But that's an emotional reaction, a perfectly understandable emotional reaction. Once you get over the drawbridge, you want to pull it up and make it as hard as people to follow you. But
it's crazy though, because like people forget that it's the drawbridge that allowed you to cross the river in the first place.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
People are demonizing people and forgetting these people are just the byproducts of technology allowing our society to progress to the next level.
Yeah,
right. Like the printing press, it was amazing. If you didn't like it, you were a Luddite. Straight up. Like you don't like that I'm on my phone all the time? No, the phone's real life.
Yeah.
You tell me to get off my phone, no, I'm on real life right now, you're a Luddite.
Yeah.
Right? I think everyone's a Luddite if they don't want to get with technology and they want to live back in the good old days of the 80s and 90s.
There you go. And before I gotta keep going with what I was saying because I don't want to shit talk my wife without also because while she wants to pull up that's the emotional reaction, right? That's the conversation that's in the moment. Like obviously everyone everyone who sort of thinks about it wants the future to be better than the past.
Totally.
And so, while the emotional reaction is, pull up that drawbridge, people understand that, we should be building bridges as opposed to drawbridges, right?
Yeah, and if you have a boat, just float across on a boat. Like, if you're so happy alone, use your boat.
Yeah.
You don't need to use the public drawbridge.
Yeah, that's right. So if we have our the visceral reaction, and I turned 50 this year, so I'm cell phones are a new thing for me, and I'm all into it. I couldn't live without my cell phone. But there's lots of people my age who this thing is a
you drive a Tesla, you're pretty with it.
Yeah. So I like tech. So but that's completely understandable. But people also want the future to be better, need to be able to use the tools, want to build bridges and get everyone in a better future.
The problem is it's often it's only bridge engineers who can build a bridge, right? I can't build a bridge, right? I can't think of how to start to build it. And so many people feel like they need to, or now that they have a phone, that they have the capacity to be a bridge engineer.
Right.
And they can't see the vision. And it's hard for someone like me who sometimes can understand a vision, but other people just don't have the right perspective to see what people are talking about. Your slogan is "Forward Together."
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Let's talk about that. We've got like maybe 10 more minutes before I'm going to have to dip.
Oh, sure.
So let's
the Green Party announced its sort of overall national slogan, which really resonated with me: "Not left, not right, forward together." And so the "not left, not right" piece, we're sort of leaving off some of our branding stuff just because that requires a little bit of explanation. Forward together, I think people understand sort of on a
you're just marching together.
Yeah, and so, but the "not left, not right" piece is important to me because, I don't consider myself left wing. I don't consider myself right wing. I don't consider myself in the center. I consider this spectrum is meaningless and becoming less meaningful as we move.
I like that.
And also, it communicates that, for me, the Green Party and this campaign is about the future, is about what the transition from where we are now to where we're going to be in 2030, 40, 50. 2050 is a big year for me because that's when my son turns 50. I'm 50 right now. And 2050 is the year that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, got that out, is talking about, around 2050 is when we're going to see, when it's sort of too late to start to have, So by 2050, basically the amount of carbon in the air is going to dictate whether we have a livable world or not. So Forward Together is meant to communicate that we are looking into the future. Mm-hmm. We can only get to a good place if we are all in this. So the people who are traditionally would consider themselves on the right of the political spectrum, the people who consider themselves on the left of the political spectrum, the people who would consider themselves centrists, the people who are people like me. I'm a middle-aged white guy who was born in this community. The indigenous peoples, our First Nations in this riding and in this country, the people who came to this country more recently, who don't have white skin, the people who are not.
I see them every day.
Yeah, there are. You know what? We are a diverse community, and
getting very more diverse.
And isn't that? And that is so. It was so exciting to me to march in the Pride Parade. When was that? 2 weekends ago, I guess.
Oh,
now.
Not even. It was like last weekend.
Was it? Time is going so quickly and slowly.
Or maybe
it
was 2 weekends ago.
Is that all you guys are doing is arguing?
Yeah, we're just arguing. We're just talking and recording. You want to say hi?
Yeah, I just want to say hi.
Hey, good to see you.
We got kicked out.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, somebody put a gun and Mickey underneath my pillow.
Well, that sucks.
Geez.
So now I got kicked out.
Well, we got to keep talking because I got to catch a bus or bridge, not a bus.
Okay.
I gotta get going to my next meeting, my friend.
What do you do?
Thanks for
I
talking.
record a podcast. We're just recording some radio.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Because you know what you're doing.
I like to pretend I know what I'm doing.
He knows what I'm doing. He's doing.
I pretend. Anyways, I'm Nevin, but I gotta go. I gotta finish up my conversation, okay?
I'm Ian.
Okay,
Nice to meet you.
Go ahead.
Have a great day.
Yeah. So Forward Together implies to me that everybody. So we need, if we're going to make these changes, we need to bring everyone together. We're not going to agree on where we're going to end up, but we need to respectfully look to the future and talk about and debate in a respectful manner, understanding that people have different. They come from different places. Mm-hmm. They have different approaches. They have different things that are meaningful to them, different things they love, different people they love, different things that drive them crazy. But if we don't work together, if we don't move forward, If we're going to live in the past, if we're going to keep doing the things that we've been doing for the last 50 years, or in my lifetime, since I've been an adult person in the last 30 years or so, if we keep doing these things, we're going to end up in a very dark place.
Yeah.
And we're going to end up in that dark place together. So let's actually start making those changes so we don't get to that dark place.
Which is why I was very excited when I saw the NDP announcing their new candidate, and I saw you welcome him aboard the race on Twitter. I think I saw that on Twitter.
Yes, yeah.
I'm very excited because now you have your two old dogs in the race. You got yourself, and you got this young pup who's just gonna, run around. And I'm very excited. I think we've got like four really, I don't want to use the word balanced, but like just a really good slate of like four really good different perspectives that, since I've got I think an okay vibe on everyone, and are really gonna bounce and balance it out, making October very exciting.
So now, am I allowed to do a shout out? Can I do a shout out to
shout
Kathy McLeod and Terry Lake?
Yeah, shout out all you want, man.
And to Doc Currie. Like, I met him very briefly at the Labor Day picnic. Seems like a nice guy.
Seems like he's got a good resume.
Yeah, he's got a good last name.
He has law experience ish.
Yeah, and so, so I don't know him too much, but like a shout out to Terry Lake and Kathy McLeod, both who have been public servants, both who have been politicians. I know from doing this for like 3 weeks a month that this is hard. Like, this is hard work. People, like, you'd be crazy to go into this if all you were doing was stroking your ego. And I absolutely think that Kathy McLeod and Terry Lake deserve a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
Putting themselves out there, doing this for years. I disagree with their ideas and their parties and their platforms, but they have been, both have been kind to me.
Staples of the community, for sure.
Absolutely. So, congratulations, kudos, thanks to Kathy McLeod for representing us in Parliament. Thanks to Terry for being a municipal politician, for representing us on the provincial level, and for throwing his hat into this ring. So, this is not a fight.
No.
This is a campaign. This is a race.
People forget like how democracy works sometimes.
Yeah.
And the whole rainbow crosswalk thing, I had to remind someone, don't worry, it still has to go through and get approved. Remember, we don't throw the democratic process out just because a few gay people want something painted. That doesn't work like this. Slow your horses. Yeah. So I know I probably didn't talk extremely PC there, but I feel like sometimes in Kamloops you need to have someone who can transition that non-PC culture to the PC culture, but that's what I try and do. But,
no, that's cool.
With the last 10 minutes, what's something what's something you think people often misunderstand about you? That when they look at you, whether it be politically or just as a lawyer, as a person, as a father, as a friend, what's something that people just don't understand, and it just drives you nuts?
Oh.
It's something I struggle with, so that's a question I like to ask.
I guess I have played. So being a lawyer is a role, and so I guess what has always driven me crazy is, and this is my fault to some extent, is you. Being pigeonholed in any particular role as being your identity, and I blame myself for that too, right? Because there have been certain times in my life, and these were the most sort of self-destructive times in my life, where I defined myself by the job I did. So right now, I'm throwing myself into this campaign.
You're Iain the politician.
Yeah, there you go. But I am. So I am not Iain the politician, right?
Sure.
I go home to a woman I adore every night, and that's by far the most important piece of my life is my family, my wife, and my 3 kids. That's who I am.
Very 360 perspective.
Well, and also, and so the greatest thing about politics is I get to meet and talk to interesting people. That's really fun. But the absolute best thing is I now have a bunch of new friends. people who are working on the campaign who I'm getting all emotional just thinking about like these people I'm dealing with, and that is like that's also who I am. Like I've friends. I'm the son of Angus and Jackie Currie. Couldn't be more proud of my parents, who are still living in town. So all of these different identities, are really important to me. And it's impossible to look at someone and say, "Oh, there goes Iain Currie, the politician," or "He was the Crown prosecutor," or "That's the lawyer." Yeah. And so you got to forgive yourself and you got to forgive other people for pigeonholing you, because how else are we going to organize the world? But
I was thinking about this morning, like just like a stupid joke of put my Instagram bio on my tombstone or something, right? Like so much of what we want to be, we project onto like 140 character bio of our social media account. Yeah. We're like, what would that say if my mom, goes to my tombstone and it says like Nevin Webster, professional hype man, right? And like, what does that mean? But yeah, this has been fun, even though it's a little bit off kilter, a little bit more candid.
Oh no,
it's been interesting getting to know you. Yeah. Just from the Tesla, I like the Tesla sweater. I think that's it is sweater weather right now. Is that perfect weather where you don't need a sweater, but you could have a sweater?
Well, so I worked out this morning, and so I was considering running home, having a shower, coming back and doing this interview. But instead, I just put a sweater on because I was sweating and then cold sitting out here in the shade. So I'm glad it just happened to be the Tesla swag.
This location, this was where they had that creepy office in for the longest time, right? The House of Surreal Investigations.
It was the Office of Surrealist Investigations.
Okay, yeah. Does anyone honestly know what that is or what that was?
So it was an art installation. So I'd never I only found this out after renting this building and starting, but I loved walking past here because my office is just a block away. And so in fact, when we started, we painted this green, 135 Victoria Street for anyone who wants to come. But when I came down here and we started the sort of renovation and fixing it up for our office, that was still on the office. The door was Office of Surrealist Investigations, and I came down. It had to come off, I suppose, but my son actually was scraping off the letters, and it just
But what
it was so sad.
Do? What was it like? It was just an art installation. It was just like
they had some shows in here, and they sort of had a little gallery.
Oh,
yeah. So
I didn't know I could actually go inside at any point. It was just like this weird. Is there actually like a weird private eye who just likes really weird, creepy things and is never here, and the door's just locked?
So what I wish here's what I aspire to be. I aspire to be the kind of person who would have just gone in to investigate that, because I wish I'd done that. I feel kind of sad now that I know it was this art installation. I'm sure anytime that door was open, they would have loved for people to come in, and I just didn't have the the chutzpah to go in.
I researched them online, and I think they have a Vancouver location and stuff. So I always just try and get a feel of people online before I move in.
Okay.
But that's just because that's my way of doing private eye stuff.
Well, that's your generation. I wish my generation is just to ignore it, right? It's just that's odd. I'm gonna walk really past that. But yeah, so really cool idea. I wish I'd had the
chutzpah.
I wish I'd had the balls to walk
gumption.
in.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
So to walk in the office, that's not politically correct. How about that?
I appreciate that.
All right, there you go. To walk in, I didn't. I found out about it later. I will live with that regret for the rest of my life.
Oh, absolutely. But there is lots of other cool little things popping up around town. So if you find out about something that's cool, be sure to drop it in my little Facebook group. Shout out my Facebook community. We need people to know these stupid little... Not stupid. They're nothing stupid. These funny little spots we have all around town.
Yeah.
There's lots of them. And I don't know, Kamloops just doesn't like putting them on a podium all the time. That's what I try and do a little bit.
Excellent. No,
but
we need people like you.
Where can people find out more about you, Iain? I got to wrap this up. What's your website or your socials? What's the best way to reach out to you in a way that might be easiest for your potential constituents to get to know you?
Yeah, so easiest way is iancurrie.ca, and Iain is spelled with an extra I, so IAIN. Shout out to vowels. So IAINCURRIE.ca is my website. You can hit us up with an email from there. I am on Twitter. I'm on Facebook as Iain Currie 2019.
You don't have a Facebook page for the Green Party, or I try to find your Iain Currie Facebook page.
Oh, so I have my personal Facebook page, Iain Currie, which I've been on, but Iain Currie 2019 is the page for the campaign. Yeah.
Got it.
So again, Iain with the extra I. Shout out to Jackie and Angus for supporting vowels.
The extra vowels.
That's a
very millennial parent sort of thing. Be like, let's take a normal name and just tweak it enough.
So let me just defend Iain with an extra I, because this is that's my great uncle Iain. Like, this is a Scottish thing. Not all Scottish Ians have an extra I, but in my family, that's the way it's been for generations back.
Okay, so some real history.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's not. So now my eldest daughter is Maya with an extra MAIA, because you gotta like the vowels.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the podcast, subscribe on Spotify. That might be the easiest place, or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's Kameo with Nevin Webster. You can look up Iain Currie, honestly, in Spotify. IAINCURRIE, and you'll find this as well. I appreciate it. Anyone who listens, anyone who subs. And I'm going to be getting back on the horse, doing more of these interviews. I definitely need to get to a minimum 4 interviews a month. That's my goal, but I plan on smashing that. Shout out Marlene Hibbs as she bikes along Canada on her way to Ottawa. She's been going hard. She's already in Ontario. And shout out to anyone who's doing some awesome today. Peace out. Bye.